Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. This season, we're embarking on a What's wrong? This
It's
season,
okay.
we're embarking on a journey of personal growth and reflection as we explore the depths of human experience. I don't know why that line is so funny today. We'll use our good and bad experiences, friendship, and passions to inspire thought provoking conversation and soul driven advice to better help you create a life worth living and step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch. Hi.
Okay, I just have to say hi, hello. That before we started recording, I have been having just a terrible week. And potentially April was really bad as well. And I've had a really bad week. And I was sharing with Tracy, I'm having a horrible week. I don't think that I can do like the episode I thought I'd be able to do. And Tracy, in her beautiful kindness, was like, I can produce the episode. That's fine. Do you want to put it off? Do you want to come on? I said, no, we'll do it. And then I was sharing with Tracy like this and that. And I really was feeling down and overwhelmed and sad and all kinds of things. But that opening, it's like you got me giggling
That was
and
like
now
our
I
third
feel
or fourth
better.
attempt, and I don't know. So here, I'll tell you right quick. The universe was humbling Tracy because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this perfect. Like I just like today I'm gonna do it perfect. But before I had that thought, I considered removing that sentence out because this season has been all over the place this year. And not at all what we kind of considered. And then I just hit
Yeah.
record and I was like, do it. And every single time I got to that line, I got the giggles. And I
Yeah,
don't.
because this last one that everyone's hearing is actually the third try. So
So thanks for sticking with us. I hope you got the giggles too. Um, well, okay, this isn't how we were gonna start the show. I was gonna ask you about our last episode, and kind of circling back to you had shared in episode 138, The Dream, you had just concluded writing a book that you've been writing for as long as we've been doing the show, right?
yeah,
Yeah, if not
longa.
longer.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of been a marathon, and you just did like the last sprint to the finish line and birthed it out to the world. And when we did the episode, you had that new mom glow, right? And you were excited, not sure what to do next, don't know how to hold your baby or where to set it down. But just like had all these endorphins, and I'm wondering, have you crashed yet? Has the exhaustion of completing a book hit you yet?
Well, I think just asking that question and me sharing, this is what I'm feeling, and I don't know why I'm feeling this, and this has been bad, and I just don't feel good, and I'm sad, and I'm this, and I'm that. Um, I, I realized, oh, I bet that is a big part of it. Is that it's that I don't know if it's like the creativity hangover or just
Mm.
like you said, the endorphin exhaustion. So I hadn't thought that that's what it was, but I do think it's a piece of it. I'm pretty sure it's a big part of it. Uh, but
I just got an image.
it's
Can I share some imagery
you
with
are,
you? You can
yeah,
let me know
yes.
if it applies to you or if this is my own intuition. We talk a lot about like the sacred cocooning, right? That like anytime I've mentioned
Mm.
feeling really exhausted or like my life is just in a pause, I'm just brought back to like, I've melted into goo and I'm turning into the butterfly. Amy, when you were just sharing your exhaustion and your creativity hangover, which is, that's an episode, not write that down for later. Um, I got this picture of the butterfly waking up in the chrysalis, and like
Oh
it's
yeah.
gotta be irritable and crabby. That like yes, it's like really cool and hi, I'm a beautiful butterfly, but also like I just woke up and I've overslept, right? Like, and I have all these new body parts, and I have to now break out of this thing, and I'm already tired from being goo and now being a new thing, right? Like we talk about transformation as like this beautiful thing and like just an awakening, and I just woke up and I was a different person. No, like there's effort, right? Like there's a lot of like if you're in a rubber band, right? Like, and every time you move forward and like your old life snaps you back, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so do you feel like you're a butterfly that's just pissy that the alarm went off and you wanted to rest a little bit more? While
I'm
also being grateful and
a
excited.
Yeah, I'm a super irritated butterfly. I really like that imagery, and it actually makes me feel better because that means that there's something to look forward to.
Oh,
And just to share a little something, I shared with Tracy earlier that I had done, and I think you did it as well, a year-long tarot pull. So you pull a card for every month for 2024. And looking back, April was the death card. So
and now
April was the death card. And then May is actually, and this was from the Rosebud Tarot. Oh, I wish I had it in front of me. It's so beautiful. And the Rosebud Tarot May is the hang up, which is their version of the hanged man. But their version of the hanged man, the what that represents is radical presence, deep focus, transformative experience, and courage to stick with the process.
look at
Okay,
the
fine, I'll
universe
get
telling
there.
us our business 4 months in advance and us ignoring it.
And
Okay.
when I looked at that, I was like, death, tra la la, the hangman, tra la la. 4 of air is June. Okay, I guess I'm resting in June. Like just looking at all of these. And then I'm like, oh, November is 9 of swords. And then I clarified it and I got the 9 of swords. And then December is the 10 of swords. So I'm like, okay, I need to be ready for that.
Or, I mean, nothing's set in stone, right?
I changed my trajectory, right?
Yeah, you like, do you want to change your fate? Like, what path are you currently on that the universe is like, well, if you
Mhm.
stay here, this is what you have, right? And so
Well,
it
you know what, Tracy?
hmm,
Sorry. With what I was talking about and how I've been feeling, I'm definitely on that path. I'm
yeah.
definitely
Oh,
on that
well, that's
path.
why I asked. Yeah.
Which is so funny because the show I was wanted to do was all about a quantum leap, right? Which is changing the trajectory, which we're not going to talk about now because apparently during after this, I'm going to start working on that to change the trajectory. But also, let's just stick with the show, Amy.
And it's so poignant. No, I'm glad you brought that up because Amy, you had the death card for April, right? Like how
Yeah,
poignant. Like we tend not to fear any cards, right? And we view it as an ending,
right.
but like big time death that you are fighting, right? Like I don't remember
Mhm.
if this story made it on the air or not because the original show I shared it on technology was like, nope, this isn't for the public. Um, but when my grandma passed away earlier this year, I got to sit with her for 4 days as she passed. And I kind of joked, not joked, but like just knowing my grandma, I could tell she was just physically fighting death, mentally, spiritually, like everything about her. She was not one of those women who like gets to 94 and is like, hope this is my last birthday, y'all, right? Like she was not ready to go, but her body was, and it was her time. And so I just woke up one morning at like 3 in the morning, and my first thought was grandma wants amethyst, right? I was like, I have amethyst. I can get my grandma amethyst. I didn't think anything of it other than, well, what amethyst does grandma want? And I'm like running around my house and holding it and like, which one feels right? And so I found these two raw amethyst crystals and I immediately brought them there and I put them in her hands. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm an adult putting rocks in a dying woman's hands in a public place where other people are helping her. I now have to tell another adult, hey, heads up, there's going to be some rocks in her
Box.
bed. I put them there. It's okay if they get lost, but I don't know why I'm doing this. I just feel really called to do it. So like, it's not your problem, it's mine. You guys can move them as you needed. Like, don't worry about it, right? So then the morning she passed, the nurse who was with her at that time um, was like, do you want them? And if you want them, I want to talk to you about them. And I'm like, ooh. At first I said no. And then when I heard that, I was like, yes. And so she told me this beautiful story about how one of them she was gripping and one of them was in her hand and she was the other one. We looked and looked and looked and could not find it until finally we went to start prepping her body and we found it on her heart. And she's like, Tracy, none of us put it on her heart. The last time any of us, she's like, I asked around, it was in her hand. She must have put it there. So then that got me to look up, what are the associations of amethyst? Because I know purple and I know crown chakra and connection. Amethyst is to aid in the transition to death and the afterlife.
That,
And
ah,
so I feel like, like having that thought, and I don't, obviously I'm more open to these things. I have rocks in my home, and when I have thoughts like your grandma wants a rock, I right, like I listen to it. But at the same time, when all this happened, I wasn't thinking like, oh, how can I spiritually help my grandma move on, right? And so it just kind of like all the puzzle pieces clicked together, and it just felt like everything I read about amethyst and the transition to the afterlife and what it might soothe and help with, I was like, she did need that because she would not pass on, even though it was her time. And I really do feel like in the end, in the last moments we all got to spend with her, it did feel like she wasn't fighting it anymore. So I share all of this to say, Amy, would you like some amethyst? Are you fighting death? Are you fighting death in your life? I hope not, like
oh my gosh.
physically.
So do you think that that could help with the transition into some, like you said, not with death? I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Like, let's get that clear. But I never thought of that. And you know
Or
what?
even just
I'm
asking
wearing,
yourself or your guides, like sitting and meditating, or you have crystals at your home, like what
I
crystals
do.
do I need to aid me in this time,
Yeah.
right? Um, there's so many
Yeah.
different ways to go about it, but like start um calling in some support, right? Like,
I definitely, I definitely need to do that because what happens when you're overwhelmed and or stressed or anxiety or sad is you don't do the things that could actually make you feel better,
yeah.
right? So meditation has gone by the wayside. Walking outside has gone by the wayside. Um all
So,
these things that, yeah, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say that was gonna go into my next question for you. So it just shows how in sync we are on this topic. Because I was gonna say, part of the my vision for today's show was just to revisit with everything that's gone on in our lives since 2020. Like we started having phone chats in the summer during lockdown, and then in the fall, talking about podcasts and being like, we should just record our thoughts, you guys. Like, we both wanted podcasts. And then here we are 139 hours later, right? Or recorded hours. Um, and in reflecting on like the future, I was like, other than trying to manifest or really plan or figure out what your perfect day is, have we really stopped to envision the future, right? And even with that vision, have we rested enough so that the vision of the future can come to us?
Yeah, I feel like I used to do that so much more often, just thinking about the future. And it almost feels, again, like when I said all those things go out the window when you're
Mm.
feeling the feelings like this, that I haven't allowed myself that. And I'm wondering too if it's, there's a little, stickiness there because when I envision my future, I am absolutely thinking past work, right? I am thinking the future where I'm retired. But I think that that's a disservice to my life. And I think that I could be envisioning a 6 months from now future that is me not overwhelmed, in control of my life, enjoying my days. And so I think that I have, like I said, it's a disservice to my life to just sort of put that by the wayside and only think,
And
2 years from now.
is that it's definitely visualizing your retirement and a desired end state, but is it
Mhm.
envisioning and planning your future, right? Like you
No, you're right.
right? Like you're gonna retire. You're not somebody that's like, well, what would I do with my life, right? Like you're like me, our dream job is retirement because we have we have 1,000 hobbies, so many ways we wanna engage in the world, help other people, be a
Mhm.
presence in the world. Other than I love our employer. I am there for a paycheck. I do my current role for a paycheck. I might volunteer with them in different, better ways, but those ways would not support my adult lifestyle or student loans, right? So I also dream of a future of retirement, but I'm 25 years behind you, if not more. And so when I envision the future, what I get caught up in is problem solving and even a bit of diagnosing, which is a step up from problem solving, but I don't really
Oh.
let a future come to me. I more look at what I don't like in life and then pick an action and go for it. And I'd, I'd say I'm 50-50 on whether or not that works for me. And um, I'd say the stuff I love the most in my life right now, my employer and how safe I feel there compared to other jobs, right? And then also my home. Those are two futures that just arrived. I did nothing. It didn't go against what I was doing, and I did nothing. The future was just like, oh, hi. And when I think about what I was doing at those times, it's all the stuff you just shared that, like me, we stop doing. That at the times when the future's just arrived and like it's the right me at the right time in the right place with all the right resources and support and all that is when I'm meditating, when I'm in nature, when I'm taking
Yeah.
care of my body, when I'm not hating my day to day, right? Um
Mhm.
because I have the opposite issue. So I loved how you had the death, and then the next month is literally the tarot cards starting over. Like I know you shared that one has different definitions, but you went from death to beginning. You went to the fool essentially, right? Um,
No, no, the
what is
hangman.
oh the hang oh no, so I got it wrong. So
Yeah,
where's the
yeah.
hangman? That's kind of in the middle of the arcana, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
is
I think the hangman is like 12. Isn't
okay.
isn't the hangman 12? I don't know.
But
I'd
so
have to
you're
look.
oh, so
I
you
think
died and now you're
yeah.
just hanging there upside down. Your world's all
And now I
toppy
have to
turvy.
look at my life in a different way. I have
Yeah,
to I'm that butterfly hanging upside down in the chrysalis.
crabby as all
Going,
hell.
what the hell am I supposed to do now?
So for me, when I look at my tarot reading, January was the King of Pentacles and February was the Seven of Pentacles. And it definitely
Oh.
looking back, like I had really high hopes and aspirations that that meant like a major windfall or something, or like
Mhm.
new job and things like that. And what it actually came down to was that financial security I needed to take care of my pet at the end of her life and feel good about it. I did have a big tax return. I did get in February. I did have my review and get a little bit of a pay bump, right? So that, but in March, when I lost both my pet and my beloved grandma, well, she's February 29th, so I'm counting that as March 1st any other day or any other year. But I had the moon reversed, and the moon card I've always attributed it to a specific person and a specific thing. So I was so confused, but now I'm like, oh, kind of similar to your hangman. To me, that's just like a disillusionment upside down, right? That like the moon is already illusion, and then you put it upside down, and um, my world kind of turned upside down in March in a sense
Yeah.
with all that, and then just there was just a sadness with it. And then April, it was an Ace of Wands. and kind of thinking, oh, your mouth just dropped. So is that just like, oh, cool card, or are you thinking about anything
Oh,
I
I
just
always think of
well?
the Ace of Wands as like, okay, here's your like you get to start something new and adventurous. Like I just think, well, any ace is I think is a wonderful card. But
And I mean, the
how
aces
did
are
you see
really
it?
well. Recently, I heard the aces are the beginnings you go for, right? So it's not a passive, right? Like the aces are only going to
Oh,
be
right.
there and beneficial for
Hmm.
you if you're in it. And so April for
Hmm.
me, um, nothing huge in any, it was very up and down with my emotional state, right? With my grieving, with getting back in the swing of work. But I do feel like at the end there, and then definitely how I've started May, I started meditating again. I started, I'm not fully where I was even pre-pandemic or during lockdown or anything like that as I look at like the past 4 or 5 years. But I took those steps. But May, and when I drew this card, I remember being like, I don't know about that. Like some of this, like the more positive ones, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna make that happen, or like,
You weren't trusting them.
right, like I don't know. But it's the Ten of Pentacles in
Wow.
May. And then June is the Ace of Pentacles. And then July is the Two of Pentacles. And so it really starts like that whole journey of like something new, some new endeavor to me, like this fulfilling 10 thing
Mhm.
that leads like to a new material life, wealth, something. I don't know. You're shaking your head. Any thoughts as I ramble?
No, I'm nodding my head. I'm not shaking my head.
Oh, I
I'm
meant nodding,
nodding in
shaking,
agreement.
yes. Sorry.
Yes. Yes. So when I think of the 10 of Pentacles, I think of legacy. I
Mm.
think of you creating a legacy. There's a few different things. I think of legacy. I think of a like the whole package. Like I think 10 of Pentacles is almost better than the 10 of Cups.
Really?
Yeah, I just the 10 of Pentacles is like that whole thing, and it's like generational and I don't know. I just think, and it's the tree of life, the pentacles are in the shape of the tree of life. And I just think there's so many layers to that card. Could be so many different things, but I love that then you got the Ace of Pentacles. It's like, okay, now what are you gonna do? Right. And then the two is that, the Two of Pentacles, I always think there's a couple different things I think of like keeping it all up in the air, getting those balls all in the air, right? But it's also the infinity, so that's cool. And it's to me, it's almost a playful card, the Two of Pentacles. So
Yeah.
to me, it's like, yes, you might be juggling a lot of work, but be sure to be juggling a lot of play as well.
So for the reading I did, the three cards in the middle are the challenge, the lesson, and then the card of the year. So my challenge is the
Oh,
sun. My lesson is the Five of Wands reversed. And then the card of the year is Six of Cups.
so
And
when I think of Five of Wands reversed, I'm sure it's not the traditional meaning, but that almost feels like you being the mediator, even though I don't think that's the traditional meaning, but that's what it feels like to me. I don't know.
so, okay. So I love that. I don't know. I don't know either. So I think one of the nice things about kind of our pre-conversation where we're both at in our lives right now, because you're the butterfly upside down, I still feel like I'm goo, right? That I'm still, for whatever
You
reason,
do.
I'm not. Do you see me as a butterfly in a chrysalis? You can say no.
I see you as far past that.
I do not feel like a butterfly.
Okay.
I have had
Maybe
massive
you're a different
transformation.
species.
I feel like the past few years I've completely dissolved in a really good way. Like last year's surgery, super healing, right? Super
Right.
healing.
Right.
It is
Hmm.
opening up like these great new opportunities for me. But this year, even apart from the grief that I've experienced, I just still feel like I'm resting. And it's not necessarily like the post-surgical resting. I do feel like I'm healed. I think both my body, mind, soul, all three is recognizing that for 15 years I was in hell. I don't have to immediately
Mhm.
start on this new adventure after crawling out of hell. That maybe I can still take some time off. Maybe I'm still in need of rest from both what it took to heal last year, but then just this is the first 4 months of my life where I haven't been in pain, right? That like
That's yeah, I think that that is just so huge that I could see where you would be having not, not it's not an endorphin exhaustion, but it's like I'm finally free of pain exhaustion, where you can finally feel like you can relax and not be, oh, because it's either coming or it just left or, all those
and
things. So,
for
yeah,
15 years, but especially last year, I have felt like even though I'm not in a relationship, I'm not beholden to anyone, my time and my schedule is my own, I don't have kids, I'm only responsible for me. And granted, the me I had to be responsible for was kind of a lot, but I was still, despite that, because of the pain and because of the start stop of life that it caused and all that, I felt like I was always behind or always trying to catch up or trying to get ahead so that I wouldn't get behind, right? And so I was in this constant rat race
mhm.
of just, and that wasn't even to do grand things in my life. I mean, some of that was just to enjoy life, right? Like it wasn't just to go to work, but um I did during that time, after I bought my house, I decided to go back to school. And with all the health challenges of the past 3 years, that's been a slog of a process. And I've had really amazing professors who have worked with me greatly. But with everything that happened last year, this time last year, I was supposed to graduate. I had my very last class. It was a bit of a cakewalk, just some papers and group work, and I was in so much pain, and then also navigating the possibility of not only the back surgery, another back surgery, but the surgery I had at the Mayo at the end of the year, that I just put it on pause. And although the school and my professor and my work have all been great, I have not rested about it, even though I didn't have to, like, right, like they let me put a pause on the class with either we'll figure out what to do when you come back, or if it's been too long you just take the class again, right? Like you just start over.
And just tell me what you mean by you have not taken a rest. Do you mean you're still thinking about
I
it,
still
worrying
think
about it,
about it. I
contemplating?
still think
Okay.
about it. I still think about everything I didn't do. I still think about, if I do have to start over with that one class, although it wouldn't suck, I did fight like hell to complete a good, 2/3 of it, right? To one half to 2/3.
Mhm.
And so it just kind of weighed on me. And then also, like, I just stopped talking about it with people, right? Because it's a little ashamed. Because like here I was again with another potentially unfinished program.
Yeah.
Granted, it was a much
Yeah.
different situation than before, but it didn't feel different, right? And so, I'm happy to say I reached out to my school, on the 30th of this year, and I was like, "All right, hi, me again. Sorry I ghosted you," right? Like, we haven't talked in almost a year, but I'm ready to talk about this again. What are my options? And just doing that, Amy, the me that I have allowed myself that's like come out, maybe I am also the grumpy butterfly coming out, right? That like maybe the chrysalis, I was just
Yeah.
caught
Yeah.
in it or something. But like I think we talked in the last episode or the one before how I'm just like I feel like the eccentric aunt and I just want like a Florence and the Machine dress or like house coat robe and just dance around the house. So I bought one. And then I saw a meme the other day of the woman, I almost said old lady, the woman from the Aristocrats, and the meme is like enjoying single life, like, and it's just her in her fancy dress in like her extravagant home dancing with a cat. And I was like, yeah, that's me. That's gonna be me. I'm that eccentric aunt woman. I just need the money to come in. But
It
it's
is
been
amazing, though, when you just take that one little tiny step, what that can do for you. But my goodness, to get to the point where you can take that tiny step, it's like it's Sisyphean, right? You just,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, it's just a slog. And then you do it and you're like, oh,
it was so
that
easy.
feels way better. Yeah.
I gotta tell you, Amy, so like I started the conversation with my school when the semester was still happening last year. And then
Mm-hmm.
I did not do the things I had said that I might be able to do. I ended up traveling for work and I didn't do it. And I've had an unread email from the professor where he replied to me for almost a year. For almost a year. And I was terrified to read that email because I thought it was going to be some deadline I couldn't do or an ask for some paper. And instead, Amy, the email was, Tracy, how can I help you with this? That was the email I was running from. Tracy,
Oh.
how can I help you with this? And so I replied to it and I just bared my soul. And he wrote back to me and he's like, I think we can help you out. Haven't heard from him since, but it's only been 2 days. So I'm gonna give it some grace. But it's just one of those things where I didn't listen to my intuition at all last year. My intuition was like, your professor was great to work with. You were incredibly hardworking. You participated despite everything. I attended every class, right? Actively participated. I did all my group work. Just a handful of papers that got away from me and some discussion posts, right?
So,
So fixable.
yeah. So, why do you think you didn't listen to your intuition?
I didn't want to do the work. I did not have it in me to do the work. So I did. And so
Okay.
it took me a year to be comfortable saying that to someone out loud, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I think the reason why I could say it was I have been resting the past few months, although it's weighed on me, I have rested a bit more, and I'm ready to do the work now. So I think time also just helped, right? I'm in a different
Mm-hmm.
situation where um, before I was still trying to do and be everything, and also I was so worried and disappointing myself that I would say something and get like a concrete answer in reply. Whereas this way, just leaving it open ended in an unread email, who knows? And then if it is a no, it's a because I didn't open an email. It's not because I expressed what I needed, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
are
not
you
saying that's the
kidding
way
me?
anybody
It's
should go, but
Listen, if you don't finish the book, you haven't failed at
there you go. See?
writing a
Oh,
book.
oh my God, look at you
Yeah.
coming full circle. Yeah, if I
Yeah.
don't start the book, I can't say I'm a failed author.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh
yeah,
my
so this
gosh.
episode got away from us in the best way. But I think that if you guys, if anyone out listening is also kind of struggling with like, I'm a butterfly, now what the fuck, right? Like I'm still tired, I still want to be goo, I still feel gooey, I
Yeah.
don't know my new form yet. You have to tune into that inner wisdom. You have to journey into your intuition. You have to honor those true needs. There's ancient wisdom in each of us, right? That you can kind of draw on, and then traditions and rituals that you can draw from to, kind of uncover some of this. We can put some stuff in our Instagram to kind of help guide you. And then I think where we're both at right now is recognizing we have soul fatigue, right? Regardless of the diagnosis or what's going on or the why or what's next, we know we need renewal and we need rest to get there. Wouldn't you agree?
Mhm. Oh man, do I ever agree? I have I do have soul fatigue. I have life, soul, brain. I have all the fatigue.
And I think for me, depression is a very real mental health thing. Therapy is great. It's getting
Yes.
someone to help you with a problem that's bigger than you. It's like, allowing yourself out of your own head. But at the same time with it, there's a recognition and a surrendering that something in your life isn't it, right? Like there's a brain chemical play, absolutely, talk to your professionals and your team. But I think for what we're going through, there are aspects of our life we're unhappy with, and we also either feel like we can't change or can't both live our current life and change it at the same time, right? Like,
Yeah, it feels like there's not the space to be able to do that within the parameters of what's actually happening day to day.
yeah, so there's
Yeah.
there's just like this surrendering to the fatigue.
Yeah. I have to tell everyone that Tracy has so many great action steps in here, even though, we're always like, don't worry about productivity, even though I have such a weird relationship with that. But you are in it. Like you can't just sit and expect your life to get better. And I think that the action steps that you've got in the show notes would be wonderful to share throughout the week.
Yeah, and when
Uh,
I say like surrendering to the fatigue, well, there is definitely like just a rest and a nothingness to it, and like you said, not being productive. There's still it's still an active rest to a degree, right? But it's just really nourishing work
mhm.
to get you to that soul renewal place, to help you align with your soul's purpose. There's an opening. And if where you're at right now isn't allowing that opening and that future you or your future to like come through to you, you have to stop what you're doing and do something else. And then embrace the new. Um, and also, between your book, your death card, what's going on right now with like your hangman and what's next, and me trying to like get out of problem solving but still change the issue, there are endings with new beginnings. And sometimes
Yeah.
we don't want to end things, right?
Mhm.
Like sometimes with a beautiful new beginning, beautiful things end, terrible things end too, thankfully, right? You get to quit,
Yeah.
I'm an
Yeah.
award-winning author, I no longer have to work, right? Or go to the job I don't like. But
With every new beginning, it was some other beginning's end,
there you
right?
go.
That
Yeah,
song.
you
Yeah.
have to make space. And
Hmm.
so be open to that. We talk all the time. Like everything we just said and all the action steps I have, it's okay. We didn't go through it. Just listen to episodes 1 through 138. You know what? Skip episode 1, it's a little long. Listen to episodes 2 through 138, and those are your action steps. And
Yeah. Yeah.
reflect, and allow that rest. So with that said, in the last 2
Hmm.
minutes, we're most likely this might be our last show for a little while. We're going to take an indefinite hiatus to take our own advice and explore our own soul fatigue and the renewal
Yeah.
and what butterfly we want to become. But I've been so grateful for this journey with you, and it's so fun to do this, and I hope it's been helpful for other people.
Yeah. Me too. I agree. And I feel that if we're going to tell you not to be afraid to take a break, we can't be afraid to take a break when we realize we do indeed need another break.
And I'm
So,
gonna listen back to old shows too, both to help us
mhm.
kind of reframe where we want to be when we come back. But these are all lather, rinse, repeat activities. And then sometimes maybe you've been doing all the right stuff, but not getting different outcomes. So like take that break and then maybe start something new, or try it again
There
and
you
see if you
go.
get different results.
Yeah. Well, if this episode spoke to your soul, and we hope it did, please share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform. You can reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful day.
Bye.